Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Black Panther video, so I'm going to start with his history in the comics, and then I'm going to talk about how I think he's going to be integrated into the Phase 3 movies. Because Spider-Man's totally going to be a part of Civil War now, there's a lot of confusion as to how it's going to affect Black Panther's screen time, so I'll try to explain that too. I'll be doing videos for all the Phase 3 movies like this, but you guys always send me really awesome requests, so keep doing that. I'll include links for some of those other movies in the description below, but let's start at Black Panther's beginning. In the last 15 years, there have been two really awesome retellings of the origin story. There's the Client storyline by Christopher Priest, and then there's the Who is Black Panther storyline from Reginald Hudlin and John Romita Jr. Marvel's recommendation engine always tells everyone to read that second one, the Who is Black Panther storyline, just because it's a little easier for people that have never read comics before. But if you're really deep into mythology, if you really like that kind of stuff, the Christopher Priest run is way better. It just depends on how hardcore you like your comics to be. Like, if you're a hardcore comic book fan, the Christopher Priest run is probably the one to go with. But if you have unlimited money and it doesn't matter, just buy them both. The first time he appeared was way back in 1966 in Fantastic Four number 52. He was the first African-American comic book superhero. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were the ones who created him, so you can totally expect a funny Stan Lee cameo whenever the Black Panther movie comes in 2018. That seems so far away. I have a feeling at a certain point they'll digitally map Stan Lee's face so they can just put him in whatever movies they want. So after Black Panther appeared in that Fantastic Four comic, he jumped around to a couple different titles until he joined the Avengers in 1968 in issue 52. So this is a big deal because Ultron appeared for the first time 2 issues later in number 54. The connection between Black Panther and Ultron is that Black Panther has access to vibranium. Ultron wants it. Although I should say everybody in the Marvel Universe wants vibranium. As you'd expect, that kind of makes people from Wakanda a little xenophobic. Not only is he a member of the Avengers, but he's also like their political ambassador too. What I'm expecting is that the Phase 3 movies will slowly explain this. Like, we'll learn about Wakanda first, like it's a place, we'll learn vibranium is there, and then we'll start to meet these Black Panther characters. Fun fact, Black Panther is not his name. It's just a title given to the current chief of the Panther tribe. At any given time, the person that is Black Panther is the Panther totem. They form a connection with the Panther deity that gives them their powers. So whenever you take the mantle, you become the new totem. On paper, his powers work a lot like Captain America's. Like, he's super strong, super fast. If they were to fight each other on screen, they'd be fairly equal. It's just that Black Panther's powers come from a mystical source. And unlike Captain America, Black Panther's uniform, his suit, is a vibranium weave. Imagine having a suit made from the same material that Captain America's shield is made from. Yeah, it'd be like having something that's as lightweight as street clothes, but stronger than Iron Man's armor. The twist with all his powers, though, is that he has to eat a special herb to form the connection with the Panther deity. Whenever he eats the herb, it activates his powers. During that Christopher Priest storyline, he got a bunch of new gadgets, and subsequent writers have done the same thing. Usually when new writers take over a comic, they'll give their characters a whole bunch of new toys to play with. Iron Man is the best example of that. So if Black Panther is such an awesome character, why has Marvel waited this long to introduce him in the movies? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but mostly because of the mystical nature of his abilities. He also has the connection with Ultron and vibranium, and they're just now getting to that in Age of Ultron, but they haven't done magic yet. They just cast Doctor Strange. He'll bring magic into the Marvel Universe, so to speak, and then they can do Black Panther and they can explain all the mystical deity stuff. Marvel's been playing it really safe with the movies. They've just been ramping the craziness up slowly. So the closest we've come to magic so far are the Thor movies, and that's really just super science that looks like magic. When they do get to the Black Panther movie, they're probably mostly going to go with that Reginald Hudlin and John Romita Jr. run, just because the big villain of that is Ulysses Klaue, and Andy Serkis is playing that character in Age of Ultron. That doesn't mean that Andy Serkis is going to be the main villain of the Black Panther movie, but it's a pretty safe bet that he's going to be in it. The other cool thing about that Hudlin run is that it deals with the Black Panther lineage, so you get a historical look at all the previous Black Panthers. Remember, it's a title that gets passed down through the royal line. In the most current incarnation, Black Panther took the title from his uncle. There was a run in the comics where he passed the title on to his sister and she became Black Panther. He's been all over the place. There was even a time when Daredevil had him come to Hell's Kitchen and gave him like his duties as Daredevil, fighting crime in and around New York City. It was like his time in exile from Wakanda. I know that makes everyone wonder, is Black Panther going to guest star on the Daredevil show? Probably not in season 1, but there's always the chance that he could show up in a cameo in season 2. So if you're looking for a really easy comic book to read about Black Panther's origin story, just read that Hudlin run. But really, I'd recommend you also check out that Priest run too, just because it's so awesome. This is a good jumping off point for the Marvel Phase 3 films. So here's what Marvel has confirmed so far. Chadwick Boseman, playing the character, not going to appear for the first time officially till Civil War. He's not listed on the cast list for Age of Ultron, but Kevin Feige said that we would see him in the Black Panther costume in Captain America Civil War. However, based on the Age of Ultron trailer, it does look like final boss form Ultron is going to be made of vibranium, so I'm interested to see how the movie explains that without explaining Black Panther. Add to all that now that Spider-Man's going to be appearing in Civil War, in at least a minor role. The real question is we don't know how big his role is, and if it's going to supersede the role that Black Panther was going to have. I don't think that's going to happen. They don't start shooting the film till April, till after Age of Ultron comes out, so they still have time to finish rewriting the script. I think they had a version of the script that didn't include Spider-Man, and once they confirmed that he was going to be in it, they probably changed it again. Right off the bat, they've already said that Civil War the movie is not going to be like Civil War the comic, so even though Spider-Man was like the linchpin of Civil War in the comics, that doesn't mean that that's going to be the case in the movies. I think what's going to end up happening is that they'll just balance a little bit more. It's still a Captain America movie, so he'll be the biggest character. Robert Downey Jr. will be like the next guy on the list, and then you'll have all the other characters that Marvel wants to introduce for the first time, Black Panther being the biggest one. There's actually a really interesting story about how Captain America 3 turned into Civil War, because supposedly that wasn't the first idea that they had. Robert Downey Jr. said that because he wanted to do more movies as Iron Man, but kind of felt like it was harder and harder for him to quarterback his own films, the logical next step was to do a team-up movie with another big character. And because Captain America was coming up, they had the Civil War storyline, they just settled on that. Downey did say that he came to Marvel with a couple of ideas for like the next step for his character, for the Iron Man character, so I'm actually wondering what those other ideas were. Civil War was just one of the things on the list. I think the real reason they settled on Civil War is because they could write it to be like the next logical step for all these characters given what happens during Age of Ultron. I'm not going to get into crazy Age of Ultron spoilers, but Civil War will be the next step from that. Here's where things get a little timey-wimey with the Phase 3 movies. They're not going to be linear like the Phase 2 movies. Thor 3 and Captain America 3 will both pick up in the moments after the end of Age of Ultron. But when you look at the schedule, Captain America comes out next year, May 2016. Thor 3 isn't coming out till November 2017. I know it sounds really confusing, but those post-credit scenes in Age of Ultron will completely set up all those future films. It'll completely make sense. I already made a video for Thor 3 Ragnarok, so I'll add a link in the description for that. And for those that are asking, I know a lot of you are confused about which version of Ragnarok it's going to be. It's actually the Jack Kirby Ragnarok. It's not the Civil War clone Ragnarok. The difference is that the Jack Kirby Ragnarok is an Asgard shattering event, and the Thor clone is a much smaller thing. Here's my big question for you guys. How do you want Marvel to integrate Black Panther into the Avengers? Like, how do you want that dynamic to look? Just remember that all of the films between Civil War and Avengers Infinity War Part 1 are solo titles, so we might not see him in an Avengers team until that first Avengers 3 film. But I totally have faith in Chadwick Boseman. He's a great actor, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think they've officially confirmed a writer yet, but if you watch Arrow, Mark Guggenheim was joking that he wanted to write the screenplay for it. It was kind of hard to tell whether he was joking or not, but I don't think he would have time to do a screenplay for a movie if he's running a show that shoots 180 days a year. So my next Marvel video is going to be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Big reminder, that comes back on Tuesday. They're going full steam ahead on Inhumans, so be sure to subscribe to get those weekly videos. It's replacing Agent Carter, so I'll be doing weekly videos for it again. While you guys wait for that, you can click here to learn about a maybe Spider-Man cameo at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron. Danny Elfman's just writing some music for it, so they might have like a teaser for Spider-Man. And you can click here for that Thor 3 video. Thank you so much for watching, so I'll see you guys this weekend. High fives. Live long and prosper.